And so the Clippers are down, and they are down bad. Ever since the James Harden trade, they are now officially 0-4 with that trade. They haven't won a game since the Lakers game, which was 5 games ago. So they're 0-5 in their last 5. They are now currently sitting at 3-6 on the season, and it's looking more and more likely what everyone kind of predicted with the James Harden trade, which is why in the world would the Clippers want to go and do that, right? You have all these pieces that don't really make sense to fit wise, right? Like usually when you think of just super teams that have fit well together, it's usually like, okay, you have like that playmaker, you have the guy that's the clear-cut 2 option, and then you have that guy that's like, was the 1 option, but could take a step back, but can do other things, right? Like rebound or shoot or whatever, right? Like think of like the Celtics, right? You had Paul Pierce, who he was a guy that could absolutely just go get a bucket with KG, who, you know, was your big man that could rebound, block shots, be physical down low, and then Ray Allen was really good off the ball. You got LeBron James, who basically was the playmaker, the setup guy, the guy that could do a little bit of everything, right? You had Dwayne Wade, who was the defender, the high flyer, the guy that could just go get a bucket at times. Then you had Chris Bosh, who, you know, could stretch the floor, block shots, rebound, right? There was a clear-cut fit. And you had a trio that could all kind of mesh together, right? It may have taken a little while to figure out, but it all meshed, right? Kyrie, LeBron, and Kevin Love, even the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, right? It's like, okay, well, how is this going to work? Oh, yeah, all the guys don't really necessarily need the ball in their hands. They all could play very well off the ball. Clay, Steph, KD, they're all super efficient. It's just, it works if the pieces make sense. James Harden going to the Clippers made no sense. You had a guy in Russell Westbrook who cannot play off the ball, and every time that teams try to allow him to play off the ball, it just doesn't work because he can't shoot. Then you have a guy in Kawhi Leonard that every time he touches the ball, he's a black hole more times than not. Like, you're not going to get the ball back. He's not a guy that's really like, hey, let me keep swinging it. And then Paul George, like, yeah, he's a little more willing to make plays and can make plays at times, but he needs to get his shot attempts. So you have 2 guys in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard who want 20 shots a game, and then James Harden's got to kind of figure it out from there. And, you know, he likes to be a guy in volume. It's just, I don't see it working, right? You know, it's the constant running joke of like, you know, there's only one basketball, and you see that a lot of times with like big threes. And again, if the pairing's right, you can make it make sense. But this is an actual scenario where there's only one basketball. So what do the Clippers do, right? They're in trouble. Well, it's very likely we're going to see the end of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George sooner rather than later, right? I'm sure they'll give it time to marinate. I'm sure that they'll give it till, you know, like after December 15th, when many guys start becoming available for trades. But once we get to like December, January, I actually think the Clippers, unless they just magically turn it around and get it done, one of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are going to be traded. So there's 2 ways that I see this potentially kind of turning around for the Clippers. Obviously, not counting like, hey, they figure it out and it works. I just don't see that being the case. I think you have to get Russ to the bench, but we'll touch on that here in a moment. The only 2 ways that I think that this works is A, the inevitable, one of these 2 in a Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, one of those 2 end up going down and missing a significant amount of time. And then what'll happen is you'll see James Harden be able to be James Harden, and he'll only have to really share with a Paul George or a Kawhi Leonard rather than both. And they may rattle off some wins and win some games, which is kind of the idea and point of James Harden, right? But to add that 3rd and then 4th guy with Russ, I just don't think it makes sense. But now, like, let's say Kawhi Leonard misses 20 games. Well, Paul George and James Harden, they now only have to make it work. Right now, it's just those 2, and then you still move Russell Westbrook to the bench. right? And now it's not as clunky. Now you can kind of allow James Harden to be on the ball more, get his shot attempts, kind of get in his rhythm, yada, yada. Same thing if Paul George misses time. The other way is one of these two end up getting traded. I mean, it's that simple. And there's already murmurs going around that Kawhi Leonard is unhappy and that he is frustrated with the situation going on with the Clippers and that he potentially may want out. And if he wants out, guess what? He's probably going out. And then Paul George, who I think is most likely to be traded, because I think, one, you would get more of a return for Paul George just because he's been healthier, and he's the better shot maker, and he's the guy that has just been the better defender. He also was the guy that was in trade talks, and supposedly the Knicks had him if they wanted him. It's just the Knicks felt like the price was too high for a Paul George who has dealt with injuries and they couldn't heavily rely on. They thought the asking price was far too high. But he was a Knick if the Knicks wanted to trade for him. So I don't think that is something that's far-fetched. Because the Clippers run the risk of losing all of these guys, which some might say that's not the worst thing in the world, right? You'd have all this cap space, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you have no future. Nobody's going to want to go and sign up with the Clippers. There isn't really any big names other than the guys that are currently on the Clippers. And you're about to have a new arena. Are you really going to lose all of your star? Like, that's what the James Harden trade was about. It was about getting all this star power in order to kind of sell and put butts in seats in the arena. Problem is you have to win some games, right? Like, people aren't going to go to a new arena and you're not going to be able to get the draw from the star power if the Stars can't win a game, right? Or if they're not even a playoff team. And are these Stars going to be happy about that, right? James Harden's going to go from being a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference and potentially making it out of the Eastern Conference, which he should have just stayed with the Sixers, like I said. But he's going from that to all of a sudden could potentially not even make the play-in. Right? I mean, the rate that they're going, they're not. Now, I do think that they make the playoffs or at least the play-in. But 2 of the 4 games that they've lost, they couldn't even clear 100. And then this game, they cleared, 101? 1 point over 100? And the Mavs game, which is the one game in which they did clear 100, they played against one of the worst defenses in the entire league. It's so clunky, and it's just, there's no real fluidity to the offense. It's a total mess. Total mess. Right? Which is crazy because the Clippers, like the 4 games or whatever into the season, were like number 2 in offense, and like they were looking really good. And then they went and just decided, hey, you know what's a great idea? Let's go and trade for James Harden for what? It literally made 0 sense. Like, this, what is going on right now? I have videos on this channel talking about this very thing. This very thing. Like, that I wouldn't be shocked if they were atrocious and were actually worse because of James Harden. Because he needs the ball and he is best with the ball in his hands. And the whole reason you got James Harden was so that way he could be the playmaker. James Harden has to be the playmaker. But you have Russell Westbrook. And Russ has been excellent for the Clippers. They were better off riding the ship and just hoping everyone stayed healthy. And if everyone stayed healthy, you'd probably be a contender. But no, they thought, let's go get James Harden. It made 0 sense. 0. 0. Right? I don't get it. And mess that I don't see a way out of unless, like I said, injuries, which is odd to say, because usually that hurts teams. I actually think it'll help this team. Or B, somebody ends up getting traded. That's just how it's going to go. The problem is you're never going to get the value that you're going to be looking for Kawhi Leonard, for Paul George. I just think it's inevitable that one of these two end up traded. I don't see this team staying the way it currently is intact for the entirety of the season. Not if you want to be a real contender. Not if you want to make the playoffs without being a play-in team. I just think the Clippers are a mess, and they're going to have to shake it up some way, somehow. Right? You don't need 4 stars to make this happen. Right? And it's not like, oh, it's because we have Russ or anything. No, it's just, even if you had just Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, I don't think it works. I don't. But now you're going to have to make the tough call. You're going to have to move Russell Westbrook to the bench. You're going to have him play 6th man. He's going to have to be okay with playing, 15, 20 minutes a game. If he's not, you're going to have to waive him, which, he's not going to be happy about. Those are the only options that I see. I just think, I think waiving Russell Westbrook is silly. I don't think that they should have traded for James Harden, but they did. Now they got to live with it. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, one of those two is getting traded? It's inevitable. Do you think the Clippers, no, they'll figure it out. They'll be able to make it work? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. I appreciate you. See you all in the next one. Thank you.